Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Today I'm taking a look at a rather fantastic two-player game called Sky Team, designed by Luc Remond and published by Scorpion Masque. Sky Team is a cooperative game for two players in which you both play as a pilot or co-pilot at the controls of an airliner. Your goal is to work together as a team to land your airplane in different airports around the world. To land your plane, you need to silently assign your dice to the correct spaces in your cockpit to balance the axis of your plane, control its speed, deploy the flaps, extend the landing gear, contact the control tower to clear your path, and even have a little coffee to help improve your concentration enough to change the value of your dice. If the aircraft tilts too much and stalls, overshoots the airport, or collides with another aircraft, you lose the game, of course. From Montreal to Tokyo, each airport offers its own set of challenges. Watch out for the turbulence though, as this really will end up being a bumpy ride. Okay, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get with this super tense cooperative two-player game. I will show you how to set up and play the game, but we'll only be able to show you the basic starting landing procedure for landing at Montreal. Once you have mastered landing at Montreal, there's a ton of other landings for you to try and what look like extra modes and stuff to add to the basic game. So, no spoilers here. Setup is really pretty quick. First, place the control panel between the two players. Place the speed markers on the speed gauge as indicated on the panel and place the brake marker again as indicated. Slide the altitude track into the slot on the top right of the panel until 6,000 feet is visible. Slide the approach track into the top left until the cloud is visible. Place the re-roll tokens on the indicated spaces on the altitude track and place as many airplane tokens onto the approach track again as indicated. Place the coffee tokens to the side of the panel. Place the switches into the control panel so they cover the green areas. And place the access dial. And finally, give each player their coloured screen and dice. Blue for the pilot who sits on the left and orange for the co-pilot who sits on the right. Now you need to get this plane to Montreal and, of course, land it safely. The game is played over 7 rounds, each with 3 phases. The first phase is called Strategy and Decision and Dice Rolls. Here you both get to discuss your strategy at the beginning of every round, but you're not allowed to discuss the dice at all. So for example, you could not say, if you roll a 6, put it here, or use your weakest dice to do this action. You would not be allowed to do that. Then you secretly roll all your dice. Phase 2, Dice Placement. Take turns following the coloured arrow in the current altitude screen. The colour of the arrow indicates who plays first that turn. On your turn you place one and only one die on a free space on the control panel, respecting its colour constraints and any number constraints. Using the pilot as an example, you can only place a die in the blue spaces, which are mainly on your side of the control panel. Additionally, looking at the landing gear, you can only place a die with a 1 or 2 here, a 3 or 4 here, and a 5 or 6 here. On the brakes, you can only place a 2 die here, a 4 die here, and a 6 die here. The concentration spaces are multicoloured, so both pilot and co-pilot can place a die here with any number showing. It's worth noting that any space that has this exclamation point in a triangle must have a die placed in it by the end of the round. Failure to do so means you lose the game. So let's look at the areas of the control panel and see what they do. The axis. This is where you control the axis of the plane to ensure you have a smooth landing. So you need to keep this level and avoid going into a spin. Both pilot and co-pilot have to place a die in their relevant space. Failure to do so means the plane spins out of control and you lose the game. As soon as both dice are placed, you deduct the one die from the other and rotate the dial a number of spaces equal to the difference, either towards the pilot if their die was higher, or to the co-pilot if their die was higher. If both die are the same, do not rotate the dial at all. If the dial reaches or passes the red X, the plane goes into a spin, and of course, you guessed it, you lose the game. The engines. Here again, both pilot and co-pilot have to play a die into the relevant space, or the plane will lose power, and of course, you will lose the game. There is a lot of losing the game in this game, so please pay attention, as you would if you were flying an actual aeroplane. As soon as both dice are placed, again, the dice are added together. If the result is less than the blue marker position, you do not move the approach track at all. If the result is between the blue and orange markers, you slide the approach track down one place. If the result is greater than the range marker, slide the approach track down 2 spaces. But be careful. If there are any aeroplanes in your current position and you move the approach track, you've had a collision and, you guessed it, lose the game. The radio. As soon as you place a die here, count the number of spaces equal to the die and remove one plane, if any, from that space. So if I placed a 4 die here, I would count 1, 2, 3, 4 and remove one plane from this space. Landing gear. This is a pilot only action. Each time you place a die here, immediately slide the switch to show the green light and advance the blue marker. In order to win the game, at the end you must have all the landing gear switches showing as green. Flaps, co-pilot only action. This is similar to the landing gear, only the flaps must be deployed in order. First the 1 or 2, then the 3 or 4, and then finally the 5 or 6. And each time you slide the switch to green, you advance the orange marker. Concentration. This can be used by either the pilot or co-pilot, and any value of die can be used. You simply place a die and then put one of the coffee markers into an available slot. Any player may use these in the future, and any not used stay in place for the following rounds. And you can remove a coffee cup from the control panel to use it to change the die value by one place, positive or negative. The die cannot go lower than 1 and cannot go higher than a 6, so you cannot change a 6 to a 1, for example. And you can use as many coffee cups as you have available. Finally, the brakes, which is a pilot only action. You need to deploy the brakes in order, starting with a 2 die and then advance the red marker. You do not need to deploy all your brakes, but the more you do it, the easier the landing will be. End of round. You simply decrease your altitude 1 space and take back all your dice. If the airport is in the current position place and the aeroplane image appears in the current altitude screen, then proceed to the game end. If not, you start another round. There are 2 special cases, one not so good and the other, well, catastrophic really. If you reach the airport too soon, you must play 1 or more round without advancing anymore on the approach track, so you must reduce your speed. But if you do not reach the airport in time, well, yes, it's game over. The final round and end of the game. The final round begins with the airport image and plane image showing in the current places on their relevant tracks. Now you need to play the last round and ensure at the end there are no aeroplanes in your way, all the flaps and landing gear show the green light, the plane is level and your speed is less than your brakes. And that last point is very important, as the way you read your speed changes for this last round. For this last round you compare your speed with your brakes, add the 2 speed die together and your brakes must be higher than your speed. Failure to do this means you've crash landed and lost the game. But if you have done everything right, then congratulations! You have landed safely and all the passengers give you both a round of applause. Well done! And so, there you have it. That's the basic landing for Montreal and Sky Team. Wow, this game is so good. This game is tense. This game is exciting. This game is nerve-wracking. And this game is brilliant. It really is a superb two-player game and a must-have game for any of you who think you would enjoy this type of dice placement cooperative game with limited communications. It's quick to play and really straightforward once you've played your first round. It's a brilliant game design and frankly one of the best two-player games I've played this year. And I do highly recommend picking this game up. You will be in for a thrill ride of your life with this awesome game. Well, that's it for another Fun with Boxes episode, and as always, thanks for watching and please take care.